Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined by the Chief Agricultural Editor of SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, and the 620 CKRM Regina AgriNews Director, Ryan Young. I'm your host, GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director, Doug Falconer. And it's been an interesting week, gentlemen. I guess it started off Monday morning with the announcement that Justin Trudeau would be stepping down as Prime Minister. Did that surprise you at all, Kevin?
There's been all sorts of speculation. He seems to have been so stubborn to cling to his position that when he finally did announce that he'd be leaving, it was a bit of a surprise. Of course, it leaves us all in a bit of a lurch as the Liberals try to pick their new leader, likely then to be followed quickly by a non-confidence vote and quickly into an election, all the while dealing with a Trump administration that seems hell bent on 25% tariffs against everything that we send to the US. So I'm not sure that we've seen very many more moving parts and interesting times in politics and economics and all that, of course, affecting agriculture.
All right. And of course, then something else that happened on Monday, Ingredion, the plant out by Vanscoy, which is just west of Saskatoon there, it announced that it was closing down. Did that surprise you at all?
Well, I had heard that things were pretty tough in the pea protein market, producing protein fractionates out of peas, and I know there's a mill in Winnipeg that's was ceased operations a few years ago now, Merit Foods, and it's never found a buyer. The ingredient plant just on the outskirts of Vanscoy, I drive by it all the time. It's a large facility, has an interesting history. It was started by James Cameron and his wife, James Cameron being a director of great fame and shows like Titanic. It started as an organic pea processing plant. Ingredion bought into it and eventually bought all of it. And now this Illinois-based company basically has thrown up its hands and says it's losing so much money that it's closing the plant, and about 20 employees will lose their jobs, and that facility will be up for sale. So it'll be interesting to see if is any interest from anyone else in trying to make a go of it there.
And of course, when it comes to crop prices, Ryan, we saw both canola and wheat see some jumps today, and I guess over the course of the week. And you had a chance to speak with Adam Picallo on that.
Yeah, canola especially, it had a pretty good week. When I was talking to Adam on Friday morning here, he said that the majority of the gains were actually today in early trading. It was up at the time by about $12 a ton to around the 636 range, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head what it closed by, but it was an increase. I do remember that. Large factor in that increase was just soybean oil prices having a good week as well. So that's pretty much the only thing that he kind of mentioned in terms of external factors. When it comes to the March Minneapolis wheat contract, it was I think it was up about 6 cents a bushel in early trading as well. But he said that there was not some hesitation, I guess, for the lack of a better term, in advance of a USDA report that was coming out this morning. So in terms of how the markets would react to the report, I guess that remains to be seen for me, especially when I follow up with Adam on Monday, just in terms of if there was anything notable from there.
All right. And what are your reaction to those prices there, Kevin?
Well, I think the USDA report that came out has really spurred canola prices in the latter half of this Friday as we're taping this, and is jumped up quite considerably. There were quite a disparity in the cash prices being paid for canola. Some of the crushing plants had gone to basically zero basis or even a positive basis above the futures rather than a negative basis. And you'd heard prices of $14 and $14 plus being paid in some locations this week, which was quite a bit better than some other locations. Now with this latest increase, canola will see another bump up. It's going to start to be interesting for people as they look at new crop prices. With all of the uncertainty in the world, do you look at that November futures price and perhaps consider locking in some canola for fall delivery at the prices currently available? no guarantee as to where prices could go. Maybe they'll continue to go higher, but there certainly is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now.
And Kevin, you had a chance to go over the Manitoba crop prices and Saskatchewan crop prices that were released over the past week or so, and it wasn't all that rosy for either province when it comes to different types of crops that producers might be planting this spring.
Yeah, Manitoba has a cost of production for crops, and they come out just a little bit earlier, and they make their best projection as to what prices will be in the fall. And of course, that can be off, that can change dramatically. But they look at contract prices and futures prices, make their best guess, and then add up all the cost of production given various scenarios. So Manitoba does that, and Saskatchewan does that in what's called its crop planning guide. And the 2025 version is now online and will be available in printed form at the crop production show. But as you say, there's just not a lot of good news. Even if you can produce well above an average crop, it's a pretty slim pickings for crops that actually show a positive margin when you consider both variable costs as well as fixed costs. We've seen the tightening crop economy the last while, and certainly that's the view as we head into the 2025 growing season.
All right. And then, of course, we heard late last year that the CUSMA trade dispute panel ruled in favor of the United States when it comes to GM corn being sold into Mexico. Ryan, you had a chance to speak with the Canada Grains Council on that.
Yeah, I spoke with Krista Thomas, who is the Vice President of Trade Policy with the Canada Grains Council, about it. And she said that they're glad that the CUSMA panel ruled in favor of the states, just considering that, both Canada and the U.S. felt that it undermined Mexico's commitment to the imports when it comes to the trade agreement when they agreed to that several years ago. And the second thing, that genetically modified corn is safe, and there's a lot of evidence supporting that. So it basically amounted to Mexico's ban just not being science-based, but rather just a matter of opinion that they don't want GM corn imported into Mexico. So they have about 45 days to comply with the ruling. Otherwise, Krista noted that the U.S. has some options, I guess, when it comes to escalation. Now, what those steps are exactly, I'm not 100% sure on that, but there is some options nonetheless. And another notable thing that she mentioned in my conversation with her, that throughout this whole process, it kind of showed that all three countries were showing a willingness to look after the better interests of farmers. Obviously, Mexico trying to do what's best for their farmers, the states trying to do the best thing for their farmers, and Canada as a third party here, obviously. We don't import or export, rather, a bunch of GM corn, but it kind of ties into the issue of just importing in general. And if you ban this commodity, that leaves the door open to other commodities as well. So overall, a good outcome from the perspective of the states and Canada.
Kevin, is that your opinion as well?
Yeah, for sure. If the Mexico could get away with banning GM corn, the next step, what would stop them from saying GM canola from Canada is not allowed either. And this was the previous administration in Mexico that brought about this trade disruption. And the new president in Mexico, I'm going to murder the name. I think it's Claudia Sheinbaum, something like that. I don't think she's of the same political stripe as the previous president, but I don't think as maybe tied to that policy. And I would fully expect that Mexico will comply with the ruling. And Canada was involved because it is an important case and an important principle. Even though we don't grow GM corn, we grow GM canola, and it's the number one crop in Canada.
All right. And then, of course, we wanted to wrap up this week by talking about the big event coming up next week, and that's the Western Canadian Crop Production Show in Saskatoon. I know, speaking with Ellen Gruder, that the Sask Crops Forum is sold out, but of course, AGMs, people are still allowed to vote if they're in attendance. So, what's the latest you've heard there, Kevin, when it comes to the crop production show?
Yeah, I think it's great. The SAS Crops Forum portion is at Western Development Museum, which is not far from Prairieland Park where the show takes place. But even though they're sold out for people that have registered and will be able to eat their meals and watch all the presentations there, if you're a levy payer of one of the crops, they certainly will allow you to come in and watch the annual meeting and vote at the AGM. But I think it bodes well, and I think you will see the crop commissions ramp up even further with speakers and a program to go along with their annual meetings come another year. They're sort of building back towards that direction. And I think all the people at the 350 or so that attend the SAS Crops Forum, they're going to be tied up for those 2 days, but on Thursday they'll all descend at the crop production show. And of course, thousands of producers go through the big trade show at Prairieland Park, and always interesting things to see and learn there.
And of course, Ryan, you and I will be co-hosting Sask Ag Today from Saskatoon, and Kevin will be popping in to help us out once in a while too.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to that as well. Seeing you guys in person one more time in Saskatoon, and I hope the weather is good because I remember last year, I believe it was a combination of really cold and we had a snowstorm kind of mixed in there too. So we got the worst of both worlds. So I hope there's some warmer weather for the crop production show, and there's a number of presentations as well that. Are going to be at the Information Theater at Crop Production Shows. So there's lots of things to learn and things to kind of explore at the show. And one of the things that kind of popped out for me too was there's going to be a presentation related to drones. I believe Tom Wolf is going to be there. He's kind of a familiar name. I think he spoke at a AGM or on I think it was the Saskatchewan Agronomy Update in Saskatoon. That's the event I was trying to think of. He spoke at that recently, so he's going to bring his topic of drones into crop production shows, so that'll be interesting, as well as the inductees into the 2025 class of the Saskatchewan Agriculture Hall of Fame. So we'll get to hear who is going to be inducted, and that's always a cool thing to see and experience.
And Kevin, I guess since you live in Saskatoon, it's up to you to order good weather for next week for us. So
You bet. It'll be just fine, you guys. But bring your mitts just in case.
and a toque.
And there's two.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, and 620 CKRM Regina AgriNews Director Ryan Young, I'm Doug Falconer from GX94 in Yorkton saying so long until next time.